Hello again everyone, and welcome back to the channel here. So recently I made a video talking about the release of my game Operator 8 and how it hadn't been the best release. It hadn't been exactly what I had hoped for, and the sort of repercussions of that, the hopes going forward, and mentally the toll that that does take on a developer, because it's not the easiest thing when you work hard for 4 years on a project and you ultimately don't get the reward that you feel you deserve for that work. But unfortunately, that is the path we have chosen for ourselves, and so we need to be realistic and open to the probable possibility that we are not going to make a lot of money. And so I've decided to change the way that I think about games, about game development. I've decided to play more games because I don't play enough games. I've decided to learn more because I do watch a lot of devlogs. I do watch a lot of your content, some of you guys watching this, and a lot of it is very entertaining. But I do find myself not always really focusing on what is actually being said and not always taking in the value that some of you do offer. And so I want to focus on making the most of the time that I have when it comes to development. And I realize to an extent that I have been doing this backwards, because when I started video game development, which would now be 12 years ago in 2013, I started big, which if you are someone starting out now, don't try not to do that. I know people say it a lot, but it is really true. I started with a game called Grunt 1914, and this was a PvP, at the time Battlefield-like, Call of Duty-like game that I think it released in 2019 at the end. So I worked on it for about 4 years. From 2013 to 2018 or so, or 20, yeah, around there. I was really just learning, doing a lot of prototypes and that kind of stuff. But I never released anything. I released a couple of mobile projects, but they were not anything really. One was an app, and the other two were these little shitty games. But apart from that, I then released Grunt 1914, and to an extent, I am proud of that. I am proud of what it was and what it meant to me. Of course, releasing your own game, your first game, is a big deal. But I chose incorrectly, and I did it backwards. And what I mean with that is I decided to make the big game first. And I am now, and that's what this video is about, going to be changing the way that I see development cycles and development capacity to a large extent. But to finish my thought, I made Grunt 1914. I then made a game called Death Rattle Hell Unleashed. I do have a post-mortem video on that one, and that's a theme with me, post-mortems. I do fail a lot, but apparently that's okay. Apparently you should fail. So I'm just going to use that. I'm just going to keep failing. And hopefully one day I'll fail my way to success. That's the plan, I think. But I think that kind of summarizes actually what I want to say in general. If you are going to fail, you might as well fail small. Because my failures have been big ones. My games have been too big. And I realize now with the previous game that I released, Operator 8, that the failure isn't really the game. The failure is the release of the game. Because the game itself is pretty good. I mean, Operator 8 has good reviews. I think the paid reviews, people that bought the game, is at 100%. So obviously it's a decent game at the least. But making a game that is double A capacity in terms of scale, in terms of size, and in terms of play length doesn't make a lot of sense, really. And I think it was the beginning of this year that I played Brotato for the first time, and I realized the power that scale really has, because Brotato is such a small scale game, but it's one of my most played games this year. And so I think I learned that value doesn't necessarily come from playtime. Value comes from the value of playtime. It comes from how much you actually enjoyed playing. a game where you just pad out time, which is largely what I did in some point in Operator, it's not necessarily going to be the most fun, especially not when you're touting it as a action game. So I learned a lot of lessons, and the thing that I realized is that I've been doing it backwards. I mean, I released big games for a while, and the funny thing is, in between my big releases, I did have one small release, and it was a little game called Crazy Critters Combat Cats. It was just a silly little multiplayer side-scrolling game that I made very shortly. It took me about a month. I used some back end for the code based on Photon for Unity, and that I used for the network code, and I just bolted on that, and I think it might have been like a Unity asset or something that the Photon code came from. And I took that, I made the game, and it didn't make a lot of money. But the thing is, I think it made like $900 or $1,000 or something like that. But it was only a month's worth of work. And if you consider something like Grunt, which took me like 3 or 4 years to make, that game made I think like $12,000 in total. And so the math, technically then by that measurement, Crazy Critters is a lot more successful. And that's kind of the thing that I'm going for. And I watch a lot of Thomas Brush's content, and he sort of is going for the same thing next year, where you make these small little controlled games where the experience is a lot shorter and a lot more tight, so to say. And I think that's the plan for me going forward as well. I'm going to be making small games. I do have about 15 prototypes. So I think what I'll be doing is refining some of them, maybe showing a lot of them to you on the channel, seeing what you think about them. For those of you still watching that are interested in the Gravebane Curse, which is my Kingsfield clone game, I am still working on that. It has been slow, but I will be returning to that a lot more now. So just know that I haven't given up on that game. It is still in the works. It is still something that I'm actively working on. I do realize that I've been quiet about it and that I need to release more stuff for it, but I will. I will be making more devlogs for that. But apart from that, because I like to run multiple projects at a time, so apart from that, I'm going to be making small games. I've already started with something that I would like to show to you here on the channel. So in a couple of weeks, I'll probably do a devlog or some sort of reveal for it. And I think going forward, I'm just going to be a bit more open. I'm a very, when it comes to my professional life, I'm a very controlling person. I don't think the word is OCD because I think that's overused, but I have this thing where things need to happen in a very specific way, and it's very tiring. And I think a lot of you understand that. I think a lot of you know exactly what I mean. And that can be very frustrating. And so I'm trying to let go of that. I'm trying to not have that structure to that extent. Structure is good, but that sort of structure is just too much. It kills enthusiasm and it kills motivation. So I'm going to be less structured to an extent. I think that's going to be good for me. And I'm going to be just getting back to the fun of it, because I've lost a lot of what made game dev special to me in the last few years. And I think a lot of that is because I was chasing what I thought would make money. And it's not because Operator 8, I do like the game, and I do think that a lot of it's a very genuine game. I mean, the environments and everything are extremely handcrafted, and I think it's a very personable game, but it's just I think I can get a lot more out of these shorter experiences, and I can be a lot more expressive, because, people change, and I think during these long projects I change a lot. And I would like that to reflect in my games as well, because at the end of the day, these games they are me to an extent. They are my thoughts, my feelings, and I think they are a reflection of me. I think anything that anyone creates is a reflection of themselves to an extent. So that's enough psychology for now. It's probably just nonsense anyway. But yeah, so the point of the video is that I'm going to try and be a little bit less structured. I'm going to be less controlling of my own stuff. I'm going to be making shorter games, more tight experiences that are fundamentally based on fun and not necessarily what I think provides value. I'm going to be putting fun first, and I'm going to be making games that I actually want to make, games that I think I would enjoy playing, and I think that's important. And I would hope that a lot of you do the same thing in 2025, because game dev is becoming difficult. It's a difficult time. The sales are down, the competition is up, and the whole industry is changing. The whole industry is becoming a lot more hostile, a lot more difficult to be in, a lot of political nonsense going on, stupid decisions being made by higher ups. And all of that stuff, while it doesn't affect us indies directly, it is still in the world of game development, and we do need to be mindful of it. But I think I've blabbered on long enough. And so I'll just say I'm excited to be going back to what makes me excited, what I think makes me happy, what I think is fun. And more than anything, I'm excited to be providing fun experiences and making games that I feel have value, not just because there is some sort of monetary incentive, but because they can provide a relief or an escape to the people that play them, because I think that's important. And that's what Brotato did for me. I played it at a time that was very stressful, and I found myself getting lost in it, and it's such a simple game, but yet it just captured me. So I don't know who made Brotato. I think it's one of the students of Mark Brown or something. I heard something like that, but whoever it is, your game made me happy, and I think that's what I aim to do with my games in the future. I think you can do that in a variety of ways. Uh, I'm someone that loves to use nostalgia in my games, that loves to base games on experiences that I had as a youngling, and I think that that's a good way to do it, in my opinion. And that is also why I'm making the Gravebane Curse, because a lot of people really love the FromSoft games, and not Elden Ring. Uh, what's the one that I have? I have an old one on PlayStation 2 that is not Elden Ring. It's something similar, but it was like the second FromSoft game, and that game is very nostalgic to me. Kingsfield is very nostalgic to me, and I feel the same way about games like the old Diablo games or the old Medal of Honors, and I would love to make these kinds of games as well in the future. So yeah, I'm still blabbling on, so I'm gonna try and sort of summarize this. But yeah, the point is just I'm gonna be making shorter games, more controlled games, and I've already started working on one that I would love to show to you. So if you're interested in that, subscribe, stick around, and hopefully pretty soon I'll have something to share, and you can tell me what you think about it and if you think it's interesting. And spoiler alert, it is inspired by Brotato. Now, I've already shown the one game that I sort of made a prototype for that was, it's called Zombuddies, which at this point just has a bunch of AI art, just placeholder stuff. Now, that game, I do think I'll finish that at some point, but the new one is similar to that, but it's something a little bit different. I think Zombuddies might be the second iteration of the game that I want to make. So I'm not scrapping that. I'm not scrapping anything. I don't like to scrap stuff. I like to improve them. But yeah, stick around, and in a couple of weeks here, I'll show you what I'm working on. And again, for those of you that are waiting for news on the Kingsfield clone, the Gravebane Curse, it is coming. I promise I will be back to that full steam ahead in 2025. So thanks for watching. The channel has stagnated a lot, but that is my fault 100%. When I started the channel, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it, and I still don't really, and that's why I'm changing the structure of my videos to just talk with you. because I think that I was getting too much into my head with it. I was being too controlling. I wanted to do things a specific way. I didn't want to show my face. I wanted to do these devlogs that are hyper structured. And I just don't think that's entertaining. I don't think people want to see that. So I'm just not going to do it anymore. And even when I make devlogs, I might write a script for it, but I might not. Well, I'm just gonna take it as it comes, and just gonna have fun with it. I think that's all. That's all that matters in the end. So thanks for watching, and stick around, and I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.